Welcome back, folks. Before we begin the interview component, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who has made the option series run this year. My co-curators, Dorothy and Lily, everybody at ESS, Alex, Olivia, Adam, Kate, all the volunteers, Dylan, Tom, David, everybody, if I'm forgetting anyone, them too. And just really appreciative of the space and being able to make this happen every year. This is the end of the 11th year that we've done this, which is pretty amazing. So deeply appreciative of everyone who makes it happen. And also deeply appreciative of Bill and Cooper for playing today. Another round of applause for BCMC.
Wrapping up the 11.
Right, the big 1-1, they say. Of course. I wanted to start out by asking, both of you have your hands in so many different projects and different things, whether it's on the performing end or the engineering end or all different kinds of things. How did this project come together, and what was kind of the impetus for beginning a duo project like this, and how did it come together?
We lived across the street from each other.
That helps.
Easy access.
Love it.
I think we both wanted to do something like this, and I wanted to try to push Bill to he's a great player, great ear, and I could throw anything at him, and we hung out a few times and did that, and it worked, so yeah.
How did the pieces come together from a compositional aspect? I know that I can tell that there's a fair amount of flexibility and openness in all of the playing, but how do you guys take a kernel of an idea and expand it into a piece, and how does that come together?
That's interesting because I think it's a little hard to trace in some ways, because they seem like they've all come from a different method or no method in a way. But I think some of them were, we were just improvising and kind of playing for quite a while, and something would emerge.
Scale.
There's several pieces, yeah, sometimes from a scale or a mode, and we started to explore that, and that melody came from it, and maybe we build a chord progression or not around it. Some of them we brought in an idea separately. There's been a bunch of tunes like that where we brought in something, and then we did the old 1-2 and
Oh yeah, there's something really
1-4-5.
beautiful to me about y'all's playing, about how you can take a very constrained idea or a small idea and really zone in super deeply on it and expand all kinds of complex, there's so much variety in that final point of performing. Could you talk about that process of creating so much out of a fairly limited starting point, if that makes sense?
Well, if it bores us, then it'll probably bore everybody who's listening to it, so if you have variation and keep it interesting, helps, helps build dynamics, add notes, third here or not, all that kind of stuff. It's, I don't know, that's for me at least, to help push something, in a repetitive way.
Yeah,
or
and
a modal way.
I wanted to ask also about repetition and the role that it plays in y'all's playing, because repetition gets a bad rap.
It does get a bad rap.
I think we should be proud of repetition, because we all have pattern-seeking brains, and it's the only way that we know that something's familiar to us, right? So
exactly.
How does that play into your approach, and what role does that repetition play?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because overlapping with sort of this two-part question, but it seemed to me that because we often have developed this hypnotic, repetitive motions, gestures, that it enables us to have a sort of a micro idea or a melody of just a certain duration, and to explore that, and then leave it and come back to it, and somehow that's been a big thing, I think. It seems like whenever we come back to the melody, it's usually in another form as well, or it's expanded kind of, which I think Cooper was saying. So there's several returns, and they're each different, and I think it would probably be different scenario if we were sort of every song was a drone, say, and we
Right.
were doing that, which could work in another world too. But yeah, I think that's part of what for me gives it that life. Where I'm like, oh yeah, because I get excited thinking about when we can bring the melody back, when it's coming again.
I also, I feel like groove is such an important part of how your music fits together, and especially like absent a percussion instrument or any like explicit metered instrument or non-pitched percussion instrument, how do you feel that groove becomes such a critical part of it? Like, you guys are super locked in the whole time. When you kind of lock into a groove, how does that rhythm play into how you guys approach it?
I guess in the same way, it just helps us add to it on top, not have to be repetitive in the same way always. But I mean, I think it's easy for us to hear. It's like it's just us two. So if I can hear what that groove is and he can, then it should probably be easy to lock in. It's just like a drummer. We just didn't know any percussion players, so we just had to do it like this.
A lot easier and
Yeah.
more economical.
Or not any on the block.
Right. There's an aspect of y'all's playing that reminds me of like picking through a record bin, because there's such a eclectic, like there's so much source material there and reference to, other sounds from all over the place. What are some concrete influences or scenes or records or people in particular that inform how you guys approach playing together?
For me, it varies a little. I mean, world music and scales, things that aren't so the norm. And then, or for me at least, and then any like soundtrack, kind of Italian soundtrack stuff's been kind of in my ear a lot. I feel like that's been starting to leak through a little bit, but
Yeah, we have
stay fresh.
We have a new Italian soundtrack style song, but we didn't get to play it today, but it will be heard hopefully
Oh yeah.
soon. Yeah, I think it's more than thinking about, I guess, any particular exact influences, because there's so many. But I think going back to what you kind of implied is that we both have a pretty wide listening palette. So I guess that's it. I think a lot of stuff finds its way into the sound too. I think there's like interest in ragas and interest in Middle Eastern music and African musics and rock and roll. And there's it seems like this one we just finished. We're finishing. Yeah, we can talk about that. We're finishing or finished a new disc. So it's in the stage. We just sort of tracked it. We finished that stuff. So I'm pretty excited personally, because it goes in a lot of new directions, just some of which we hinted at today. But is that an answer?
Yeah, beautiful answer. We were talking earlier about the tempo of life and tempo of the world, Bill. And clearly like the pacing of how you guys move through a piece or an idea it seems like a pretty critical component to the formula. Could you talk about how pace kind of is a huge part of what you do, and like how helpful it is to just slow down and really unpack an idea?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think you just answered it. But I think like it varies every time. I mean, it really just depends. Like, we're outside today, so maybe some things felt like it sounded better outside. Sometimes you're in
Couple planes
a different environment. Yeah, birds,
collaborate
planes,
with,
yeah.
hopefully, yeah.
And then a different environment, later in the night. I don't know. There's a lot of variations of how a open-ended performance could go, I guess, We just have a few themes and a few parts that we know will hit, but otherwise it's like, I don't know, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, that kind of leads into another question I had, which is how much variation there is from performance to performance, from room to room, because both on a vibe and energy level, like the different people in a room can have an effect.
All that's
and
heavily
acoustically
involved.
also, being out here or different shaped rooms,
Yeah.
how that plays into it.
Absolutely.
It does a bunch.
I
Yes, it
also
does.
was like super struck by the timbre aspect of things. Like Bill, both, okay, I'm a guitarist, so I nerd out about tone a little bit, but having the warmth of the humbuckers on that telly, and also like how that tone matches with a lot of the organ sonic realm. Like, could you talk about how you guys dial in a sound? Is it something that is just you're using the natural setup or rig that you already typically use in other projects, or if there's a specific approach that takes hold with this project?
I think it's mostly, for me, I think it is largely sort of a general rig, although it's modular, it's always changing, the filters and things are always changing kind of, but although I found some things that I'll almost always want to repeat, like have this certain sound. There's a box you have heard tonight, you've heard them, that has a certain kind of tone, timbre to it, and open, kind of beautiful but kind of wild reverb sound, like underwater. I don't know, but it's something that we used it on a song, is what I'm trying to say. We used it on a song or two, and now it feels integral to sort of have that for the song, that thing. But also I think that the tones, I guess I would say I try to match the tones a little with Cooper, but it's probably also mostly related to part of your journey as a musician, right, is to a lifelong search of tone, if you're into that, and for a long time I actually wasn't. Like, I'd say until about 10 years ago, really, I was like, wow, that gig sounded good, I wonder why. What? Oh, that one sounded
this is
terrible.
a guitar. Yeah, that's an amp.
Beats me. I just literally didn't try to really dial in or really figure it out. I think it was partially because I was using the same things and I wasn't adapting to the rooms, like you said before. And as soon as you start to adapt to your situations, and playing wise too, like I felt like I was kind of playing off that bird, because it was like there for a while. It seemed like it was playing along,
Yeah.
So, you have any thoughts on tone? Coop? You're a tone man.
I just go for warmth.
Yeah.
Warm is comforting.
Yeah.
Warm is nice.
You love warm.
Warm and fuzzy, all variations. Yeah, I don't know. No, with Bill, I think we both like a rolled back tone a little bit more. So I think when we found the way that the mid range works, it just kind of works,
Yeah.
We avoid spiky highs.
If we added like a lower instrument even, I think it would change things a lot, But it gives us each room to have that full range and access to it,
Yeah.
Just trying to maximize the sound of two people, I guess,
For sure.
Yeah, that's right.
I was thinking a lot during your set about music as a means to like achieve an effect on the listener, right? Because especially if there's kind of like a vibe being cultivated by the way you guys play, and you're using kind of repetition and motifs and trying to like get into a zone, so to speak. It made me think of like an old Coltrane interview that I had read once, where he was talking about trying to use his music to change the weather or heal illness, or like having some kind of transcendental, for a lack of better terms, like objective in mind when you're playing. Is that something that you guys ever think about in terms of like building the sonic landscape that you do as a tool versus just like music that you're playing in the moment?
I believe I do.
Hell yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Although what's funny is, I think that when, for me, I do think of those kind of things, like that, because all the great books I've read and great people I've met, and the music that has mattered to me, that I've heard and have sometimes played, has done that, right? It's been a transcendental thing, or something that's lifted my life and made it more rich, made it better. So I think of that. Although what's funny is it's because that's established. I I don't think you have to think of it when you actually go to play. So, but I know you weren't referring to that specifically, like, although I think it's a really great thing, or I don't know if it's a great thing, but it's something I'd like to do is before playing is, you know, it's kind of like going to the altar or something, but it's like a little bit, a meditation, if you will. And so I think that's a way of kind of keying into that a bit for me, that you want to lift the energy, lift the vibration somehow, you know?
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I think it's good to have aspirations in that direction.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask another question, and then maybe if there are any audience questions, I'll open it up for a couple of those. But, you know, you guys just mentioned that you tracked a new record recently.
Yeah.
You could talk
Yeah.
about the process of the new record, how, you know, what new approaches you may have taken on it, and how you keep moving the project forward.
Well, I think for the first time we had recorded after we had done a bunch of shows. So when we originally made a record, we were just playing at my house. We hadn't really done any shows, and I was, you know, recording it, and it worked, and we just used that, and then we played a bunch of shows and went on some tours, and you know, we didn't, you know, we don't do anything twice, you know, the same way, so we were trying to add more stuff, not just play these 4 themes over and over. So that helped us evolve into more things, and then we decided to record that, and then when we felt like that wasn't enough, then we just kept meeting at my house and kept trying to, you know, I would have something or Bill would have an idea, but honestly it's just really super casual in my living room, and I have a little other work room, and it's kind of like between those it makes like the whole sound works, and it helps us explore a lot of stuff. I don't know, I mean, just using the guitar and organ in various ways, and then recording in various ways, it's like you can go, you know, I don't think it's really confined much, you know, it's always like a different thing. But
yeah. Did you predominantly engineer the new record?
I guess I put a
set
mic
the
up
mics
and
up.
record.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask like what that process
totally
is
did.
like for you, like switching hats, if that
Sure.
if that feels like a thing,
It
or if
can.
it is one fluid process for you.
I feel like the organs always needs to sound a little better, but otherwise it's pretty easy with us. I mean, I'm trying to just make sure to get a full, as I said earlier, just a full range. Everybody can access the high or the low. Everybody can be in that space. It's not just like you have to be a guitar player, I have to be an organist, you know. So,
creating the conditions for the thing.
Just it usually helps when the sun's out, it's warm,
True.
or you know, not too hot. Yeah.
Are there any audience questions? Yeah, right here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to repeat the question for the archive's sake. So when you say the question, I will say the question into the microphone, and then you guys can answer. So yeah, go ahead.
You talked about adapting to the rooms you're in and embracing the environment, but how much of the time do you feel an impulse to sort of fight with the environment you're in, or sort of impose what you want to sound like rather than what you feel like the environment sounds like?
So the question is about kind of following up on that idea of how different spaces can yield a different performance, and do you feel like you're in tension with the room, and how do you fight against that at times, or is that something that occurs to you?
Yeah, that's a good one, because sometimes the room, you know, if you just go with what the room wants, you're not going to be happy. You know, like it's not you're fighting it. Say you're in a really, really dead room, and you know, I think with our electronic equipment, then, you know, for me, I'll try to get some kind of live sound out of the room. So that's that's a good question, because there is some definite fighting with it, and also going along with it, because sometimes you hear things that you could accentuate in the room, you know, and different ways it bounces or has reverb or not. So I guess the thing is though, there's no room usually without people if you're lucky. You know, there are actually, but
We don't talk about that.
yeah, we don't talk about
That
it.
never
No,
happens.
it's not in our tour log. So it doesn't exist. so that's another factor. So I think that's the interesting thing is that the people, everything makes so much happen for how you're going to play. So with a group like ours, where like Coop was saying that we change things a lot, or we leave a lot of freedom to how music's going to flow, that makes optimal sense to me that we have that flexibility because the rooms are different. I think what's really hard is when you have a group that doesn't do that, and then you play a bunch of different rooms with different people and different booze and different vibes. So you're trying to like play the same thing in all these this range of spaces, you know, and make it sort of come across the same is hard. Yeah.
For sure. Are there any
Sorry,
other
I don't know if that
questions?
answered it.
Right here.
You both mentioned Italian soundtracks, so like what specific influences do you take from Italian soundtracks?
Okay. In the influences conversation, we were talking about Italian soundtracks, and the question is, what specific things might you draw from an Italian movie soundtrack, or if you could speak more to that.
Well, I guess I just said Italian, but it could be all across the world, all types of soundtracks. But I guess I'm thinking of like, since it's instrumental, there's no vocals, we're not telling a story. It's kind of fun to like see if it can get to a point where it can remind a listener or take the listener out and think of their own, you know, image or scene or their own thoughts or whatever, you know. It's like, it's not so much about like looking or focusing on us, so I like to take that element into what we're doing and have it be kind of, I mean, it could be soundtracky, but also it could just be like, it doesn't have to be to a film, it could be to anything, you know, but
Yeah.
I guess that's what I was going for with that
Yeah.
comment.
Maybe one more question? Anybody? Yeah, right there.
Comment and question. You did raise the vibration level.
Nice.
Thank you. Thanks. Including the last 14 minutes, how much do you guys verbally discuss your philosophy versus just sort of working it out?
Like how much do we theorize and talk about this kind of stuff together?
Yeah, so the question was, for the archive,
Yes, that's right.
particularly regarding the last 14 minutes of the set, how much of the planning or the thought into the set is like verbal and how much of it is feel-based?
I don't mean to be a stickler, but I thought he
Yeah.
was talking about the talking. We talking about
this conversation.
I thought
This
so.
conversation,
Yeah, not-
excuse me?
Sorry.
No, all good.
I find personally when you talk about something, it goes a different way, as opposed to just a feeling. But I don't know how. I'll let Bill speak for himself.
I probably have a stronger tendency to, you know, put too many things into words than Cooper does. But also the actual answer to the question is pretty much zero. Yeah, we never talk like this. Do we? How come we never talk like this? Yeah, no, it's interesting how intuitive things are, you know, because there's other groups and things that, you know, there's minute conversations about all kinds of detailed things, you know, about all manner of stuff. But yeah, I think we just have bypassed it somehow, mostly. Yeah.
Nonverbal's always great.
It's
too.
working.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, just wanted to ask if you guys wanted to plug anything. I know you guys brought some records that are upstairs up front, but if there are any other projects that you want to plug?
Oh yeah, thank you, thanks. Yeah, I'd like to mention that because the first record, the one record we have made is here called Foreign Smoke. So if anybody's interested, we'll be up there shortly, and we'll be happy to send one home with you. And also, me and Cooper are playing, BCMC's playing with Lonnie Prince Billy at Space in Evanston
Hell yeah.
In September. I forget the exact date. The 9th. September 9th at Space. So thank you all for coming.
on out to that.
So great to see you all.
Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for a great option here. Thanks everyone who came out every week. One more round of applause for BCMC. We'll hope to be back next year. See y'all soon.